Welcome to a late night edition of Monster Territory, brought to you by the Foul Territory Network. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm feeling pretty good. I don't know what it is. There is something in the air. I can't even explain it, right? We had everything happen with Rafael Devers yesterday. It's been an emotional 24 hours, even more than 24 hours now. I can't believe it's almost 12:30 here on the East Coast, and we're doing post-game coverage. It is late. It is way past my bedtime. Anyway, but it's been an emotional time. I mean, obviously, the Red Sox trading away their star player, Rafi Devers. He's done so much for this organization over the years. It was a bombshell of a report, bombshell of a trade. But for some reason, I'm feeling good. I can't even explain it. I watched this game tonight, and you're expecting the worst, right? You know, you're seeing a lot of emotional responses out there today on social media. You know, small accounts, big accounts, whatever it may be. And to me, you know, I always take things, you know, with a neutral response. That's how I've always been. I tend to look more half glass or glass half full. That's how I've always been. I always try to look at the positives any way possible, you know, but also take into account and weigh the negatives as well. Just a quick recap on, you know, kind of how I'm feeling about the Rafi trade at this point. Yeah, it's obviously a big blow losing your best bat like that. You can't just replace Rafi Devers. It's impossible. However, you know, I see some other things where this gives opportunities for some younger guys to step up, like Roman Anthony, Marcelo Meyer. More so Roman Anthony at this point, especially with Willie Abreu coming back. You know, now Roman, he has now a path to be able to get pretty much full-time ABs at this point, you know, minus a couple of lefty matchups here and there. But it opens up a pathway for him. And you see tonight, he's batting third tonight. I think that says a lot about how the Red Sox see Roman Anthony. I think they see all the upside with Roman Anthony. Obviously, everyone does, but I think they even see more than we do. The fact that they batted him third tonight, I think spoke volumes. That, to me, was the biggest sign from the get-go, you know, about, you know, how the Red Sox are looking at things right now. They have a lot of faith in him, and they believe that this guy can maybe even lead this new era. And he showed you tonight. Welcome to the Roman Empire. First career home run. I don't know what it is, everyone. I really don't. I've been a Red Sox fan for as long as I can remember. I'm not trying to sound like a Homer Red Sox fan here, but I've watched a lot of games over the years. I've seen a lot of different teams. I've been through all the different emotions. I've been through the highs, the lows. Something about tonight it felt positive. When everything could make you feel negative, to me, it made me feel positive. I can't quite put my finger on it just yet. And I'm not even talking about just winning this game. There was just something while the game was going on tonight. I had almost this feeling of comfort in a way. I had almost this feeling of, you know, I'm ready for this team to, you know, get past all these distractions. All the Rafi to first base talk, all the drama that we've been going through the last couple of months, the ups and the downs. I'm ready for them. You know, it just felt like a clean slate tonight. It felt like, and, you know, coming off of a winning streak like they have, which, yes, did include Rafi, but you're taking a step forward and you're turning the page. It just felt like a fresh start. Coming off, obviously, a lot of highs here in the last week. And then they concluded it with a feel-good win. Was there a lot of offense tonight? No. Are you going to see a lot of people out there tonight on social media tomorrow? Oh, they only scored 2 runs. Oh, well, that's what happens when you trade away Rafi Devers. Well, those people weren't saying that while they were, you know, sweeping the Yankees and, you know, taking 2 out of 3 in the Bronx and 2 out of 3 against the Rays. You know, those people weren't saying that. I guarantee you're going to see someone on social media tomorrow say, oh, 2 runs? What a joke. What a clown franchise, right? But this is where you have guys like Lucas Giolito really stepping up. I go back to the comments that he made a couple of starts ago saying he needs to bring a bit of a different energy, into his starts. He needs to kind of start being just a little, I can't remember how exactly he said it. I'm paraphrasing here, but saying that he just needs to bring like a more assertive mentality moving forward, right? Just being more on top of himself, right? Expecting more out of himself. And you're seeing that out of Lucas Giolito in the last couple of starts. I came into this one here tonight thinking, you know what? I like this matchup, right? Giolito is more of a fly ball guy. He's never really been a ground ball kind of a guy, but that plays at Safeco. And really just goes to show, sometimes you look at these matchups here and, you got to lean into some of those matchups. But it wasn't even just the fact that he was at Safeco tonight. The guy was locating, changing eye levels. Velo was looking good. Changeup was looking good. 10 strikeouts tonight for Lucas Giolito. Just fantastic. Again, kind of wrapping up this intro here, something was different in the air tonight. And I can't quite put my finger on it, but it felt good. And I'm not even talking about just the fact that they won. It was just something about when the game started tonight, when Roman hit that homer, when Duran's getting a triple, looking back on some of the comments that the players made today, which I will go over in this episode, just something feels different. And I've said that like 5 times now, but I can't help but reiterate it. Something's there. Something's in the air. I don't know. But now the Red Sox are 38-36. They've now won 6 straight. They've won 8 out of their last 10. Good vibes right now. I mean, obviously, it's still a little... they're still reeling a little bit, right? Trying to even still figure out what the heck happened with this Rafi trade. But I'll take the feel-good win. I'll take it. Let's talk about this offense really quick, and we're going to talk about Giolito. I'm going to dive into it. We have a lot of comments to break down in this episode tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Craig Breslow, Sam Kennedy talking to the media. Unfortunately, we had to wait a long time here today. I'm not sure why it took them so long. Sometimes maybe, if you can kind of let things marinate a little bit, maybe you breathe a little bit. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe they had some logistical things to take care of, travel, whatever it may be. Maybe it ended up being for the best that they waited a little bit to talk today because emotions were so high. They still are, right? It's been a while since I've seen Red Sox Twitter this active. Holy cow, Red Sox Twitter was on fire today. I mean, almost felt like, even in a literal sense, it felt like people were just, quitting their fanhood. It was a very emotional day. So a lot of reactions here today. Some I thought were a little ridiculous, and even from bigger accounts, to be completely honest. That's just me, though. But let's, the offense. There's not really a whole lot to talk about here. We'll get to those comments in just a little bit. If you can, hit that like button for me, subscribe if you're new. First inning, Roman Anthony, first career home run. Put the Red Sox on the board here, and let me actually pull up the numbers on that home run here tonight. I mean, that was a freaking missile off of the bat. I mean, we've seen the hard hit balls that Roman Anthony's hit. Taking a look here. Let's see. We got the velo. We got Roman. That was 104 miles an hour off the bat. Just crushed it, right? You just see the potential just oozing out of this guy. And I'm excited for this guy to start getting more consistent ABs. Willier's going to be coming back soon, probably going to be working his way back into the outfield. So you're going to see, probably, him or Roman, whatever it may be, they're going to be getting at bats at DH. Or who knows how they end up doing it. But Roman getting it started here, and it felt poetic. Did anyone else feel that? I mean, this kind of leans into where it was just something felt different, right? You closed one chapter with Rafi Devers in the story of the Boston Red Sox, which will go on for years and years from now. You closed that era and you opened a new era, the Roman Empire era. Just felt like a turn of the page. Just felt poetic. something just said something to me about that. That might sound a little dramatic, I know, but I don't know. I like to get into my feels a little bit, all right? But it's funny enough, we'll get to the Craig comments in a little bit, but he pretty much talked about, right here, what we saw with Roman. He pretty much talked about this in the presser today. Third inning. Seti, KC striking out, but then Jarren Duran with the triple. Doesn't matter if Rafi Devers is here or not. Jarren Duran is going to continue looking like an angry freaking lizard out there. My goodness, his 8th triple on the year, and then Abraham Toro with a base hit. They made it 2-0. Abraham Toro, a bit of a scare. He fouled a ball off the inner part of his knee. Obviously, it just makes me think of when I smash my shin on my bedpost. Kind of that, I would imagine that's probably a similar feeling, even worse. But seemed to be okay. We'll see if Abraham Toro's in the game tomorrow. I'm sure that's going to bruise up pretty well. We'll see. I see you in the chat. Kind of off the charts. Good old quote from Giolito. Believe in Knicks. I see you here. It's a really good energy in here so far. I think Breslow, the front office, did a good job adding, and I know we appreciate it as players. I think that we have a really good mesh team chemistry. And, Giolito's talked about this. He's talked about the chemistry within the team. I'm very curious to see how these guys are going to be interacting with each other over the next couple of months. You see a lot of guys here, man. When I went to the Rays game, when I had the opportunity to go onto the field to interview a few players, you did feel a pretty decent mojo out there, right? You saw these guys just having fun with each other. But again, there was this stiffness in the air. There was something still there, even though I saw these guys, they were, goofing around with each other in pregame, whatever. Just something felt like it was just lingering there, I don't know. I'm curious to see what this team is going to be looking like from a chemistry point of view here in the next month. A lot of these guys, they do seem to be together. And I do wonder if, I'm not trying to, put Rafi down on the way out, but I'm more so looking at it where that distraction, I don't want to call him a distraction. That's not fair. That's not the right way to say it. But the whole thing was a distraction. If we're being real, if we're being honest with each other, the whole thing was a distraction. So I'm curious to see now that it's done, it's over, they can move on. I'm curious to see how this team responds. But let's talk about Giolito. Absolutely fantastic pitching here tonight. 6 innings, 3 hits, 0 earned, 10 Ks on the night. He is my player of the game tonight. Would have loved to have given that to Roman Anthony for his first career home run. But Giolito was just fantastic here tonight. He led with the fastball. He worked in sliders and changeups. Velo was up, like I said earlier, right around an average of 94.5 miles per hour. Changeup and the slider had good spin rates as well. Good differentiation compared to the fastball. He was changing eye levels. He was going velo up, off speed, breaking down. That's what Giolito needs to do, in my opinion. I think Giolito, he's a guy where if he just hits his spots and he just works the zone, right? I think he just needs to keep a simple approach. And I've talked about this in the last couple of streams now, where it just feels like they're taking a very simple approach about things. Instead of just trying to be the smartest guys in the room, trying to play, tomfoolery, trickery when it comes to, the pitch mixes and whatnot, trying to work backwards, whatever it may be. They're just sticking with a simple approach. Throw some velo, mix some breaking stuff in there, get some off-speed pitches going. Keep those pitches down in the zone. Go with some velo up. It just feels like you're seeing this a lot from these guys. And I think they're just trying to keep it simple. I wonder if that's actually really something they're just focusing on at this point. He did run into a little trouble. This was amazing. This was an amazing inning. In the 3rd inning, he loaded the bases, and you're thinking, all right, here we go. All right, well, the good times, at least for a couple of innings, well, at least we had that. At least we got to see Roman's first home run. Well, here we go. This is where reality comes crashing down. But this was something else where I look back, you could look back on this and you look at how Giolito approached the next 3 batters, 1, 2, 3 in the lineup. J.P. Crawford, Julio Rodriguez, Cal Raleigh. struck them all out. That's ice in your veins mentality. That is something that gets a team fired up. And that's something where these guys rally behind you. When you come back to the dugout, guys are fired up. You're slapping each other on the heinies. Like that's just what it's all about right there. You just felt something. You felt something in the air when that happened. And unbelievable inning for Lucas Giolito. Made 12 consecutive outs at one point. The bullpen did get a little rocky. Justin Wilson, he had to work around some trouble in the 7th. He got through it, though. Greg Weissert. Listen, I'm telling you, this is how it is with Greg Weissert. He's going to look amazing at times, and then there's going to be other times where he is going to make you vomit, right? You're going to have an anxiety attack, right? This is how it is with Greg Weissert. And I know people, when he goes on his good streaks, people are saying, oh, this guy's one of the best relievers in the game, right? This is the MVP of our bullpen. But then he goes through these stretches where he is just making it tough on himself, walking 2 batters, but then he got 3 straight outs, right? So, Greg Weissert, I love the man, but stop doing this to me. Stop doing this. And then Chapman striking out the side for his 13th save. 15 strikeouts total on the night for the Red Sox. I'll say it one more time. Said it like 18 times at this point. Something is in the air. Maybe I'm jumping the gun. Maybe I'm getting a little ahead of myself here. Maybe I'm feeling a little too optimistic. Maybe I sound like a doofus here. I am a doofus that sits at my desk, but it is what it is. I don't know. I can't put my finger on it. Something there. But let's get to the comments here because there were some comments today that did make me feel pretty good. Some, very interesting that we're going to dig into. Before we do get to the comments, though, you all know we got to pay the bills here. We have our sponsor for tonight. We'll have another one in just a little bit. We'll be right back.
It is summertime. We are in the thick of golf season. It's always golf season down in Florida, but we're in the thick of golf season across the country, and someone's looking to get a new club. That logo should say it all. PXG. What do they do?
Go get fitted. Mm-hmm. Go get fitted by one of their master fitters, professional fitters. I've done it. It's helped shave many strokes off my handicap. It is worth it. It's educational. You learn about not only clubs, you learn about shafts, you learn about grips, you learn about angles. They have all the numbers, all the setups that you need to help improve your handicap.
You feel like a VIP when you're there.
100%. They even help my putting, which needed help.
Mm-hmm. They help your putting there. That's how cool it is. So schedule your fitting today, and for a limited time, you could save up to 20% on your entire order. Head over to pxg.com/foul. That's pxg.com/foul to save up to 20% on your entire order. pxg.com/foul. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
All righty. Let's get back to it here, shall we? And hold on a second. I'm having a couple of little problems here. Let's go to the main screen. All right, we're good to go. Everyone was waiting for this all day. It was through a Zoom call. Craig Breslow, Sam Kennedy talking to the media. We have a lot of comments to dig into, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank all of you for being here with me. I know some of you might be on the West Coast, but it is almost 1 a.m. here, and we have one of our largest crowds of the season. You're all amazing. Thank you for that. It really helps when I got all of you here at this time with me. It's really it's very nice of all of you. I really do appreciate that. Anyway, thank you. Let's get to it here. A lot of comments here today, man. A lot of comments. Where do I start? All right, we'll start here. The first choice, Craig. We'll go through Craig's comments. Said the first choice was to keep Rafi Devers. Timing was terrible after the best week of the season. I wholeheartedly believe that. I do really think because everyone knows how good of a hitter Rafi is. We'll get to kind of how this all unfolded here. But I do believe that. I do really think the Red Sox, they tried everything they could to try and connect with him, to get on the same page with him. I mean, you got to think, how many times have they, that we don't even know about, that they've tried to get on the same page. So I fully believe that they really wanted to keep him, right? He said Rafi never demanded a trade, but his agency said that he wasn't opposed to one. That's kind of how I feel about that too. I mean, Rafi, he's on a massive contract, so I'm sure he said in his head, hey, you know what? I'm going to get paid. Wherever I play, I'm still going to get paid, right? Because he was still hitting well. I mean, you saw, obviously, him and Cora, they got along. He was friendly with people within the clubhouse, obviously. So I don't think he was really, hey, if I stay or go, whatever. I'm still just going to hit. I like playing baseball, right? He did say this was a chance for the Red Sox to reset, as well as Rafi, give him a fresh start. But this line stuck out to me from Craig, saying being a great teammate, sacrificing and stepping up for each other, and embodying this shared vision. We believe those are principles we need to be faithful to. Listen, I know a lot of people, they want to find loopholes. They want to try to, make contradicting arguments. They want to make bad faith arguments. They want to say this. They want to say that. At the end of the day, a team is a team. I don't care what you argue. A team is a team. Yes, could you have maybe, you could have communicated a little bit better from the offseason. In the end, maybe this is a hot take, but you know what? Those guys are signing your paychecks. Those guys are paying you. They gave you $300 million. The team comes first at the end of the day. Sure, could you absolutely look at the Red Sox and how they communicated and how, they botched a lot of things? Absolutely. Right? But at the same time, you got to find a way to get on the same page. And, Rafi said he felt like he's being jerked around, whatever. At the end of the day, man, we all have jobs. We all go to work, right? And if we start saying stuff about our boss out in the open, and that gets back to that boss, guess what's probably going to happen? You're probably not going to have your job, right? And I know people are going to say, oh, it's not the same thing. Baseball players are different. It's not the same, whatever, but still, it's the same mentality for all of us. At the end of the day, yes, I do see where Rafi was coming from with a lot of things that, he said. I understand the frustration, but the team is the team. You are one of 26, and that's just the team. You have the front office as well. You got all these people working within the organization. Have the Red Sox been dysfunctional as an organization a lot of the times? Absolutely. Not taking anything away from that. They are absolutely to blame. But Rafi, at the end of the day, you got to do, you listen to Kevin Millar going on MLB Network a couple of weeks ago. You're listening to David Ortiz. I'll get to the David Ortiz comments in just a little bit. These guys all came from that 2004 team. I had the privilege of being able to follow that team. Luckily, I really got into my fandom as a Red Sox fan, a few years before that. That 2004 team was absolutely special, and that showed me what a team needs to be. These guys had fun. They were there for each other. These guys were going out to eat with each other constantly. They were playing cards with each other, doing goofy stuff in the clubhouse together. You could see the love that team had for each other. And if they didn't, there was no way they were going to beat that Yankee team in the ALCS in 2004. You can bet your buns that wasn't going to happen. That team, it was special, not just because of what they did on the field with how good they were, but with how they were off the field with each other. And I guarantee you there were a lot of players in this clubhouse that felt maybe Rafi wasn't being there for the team, especially when someone like Tristan Casas went down, a young player like him who was the everyday first baseman, and he didn't step up for the team. You can argue it all you want. You can find loopholes all you want. You can try to find the contradictions all you want, but at the end of the day, it comes back. You got to be there for your team. You're one of 26. You all have to fight for the same thing, and that's fighting to win, fighting for a championship. All right. So that's how I feel about that comment that Craig made. You have to have the willingness to step up and sacrifice at times of need and essentially do whatever is necessary to help the team. That's the identity, this relentless pursuit of winning we're looking for. All right. At the end of the day, you're there to win. You're there to help. You're here to help to win games, right? To be there for each other. When guys are down, you pick each other up. And I think a lot of people probably saw that whole thing when Casas went down. Rafi wasn't there to help pick up the team. Sure, did he have an argument that he got put in DH? Sure. You know, he got settled into his routine? Sure. But you couldn't figure out another way? You couldn't figure out another plan? If the Red Sox wanted you to do it, they had faith in you to do it, but you didn't want to do it. So I don't know. That's just how it is, man. I guarantee you, whether you like it or not, players felt that. Maybe not all of them, but I guarantee you at least some of them did. He said, winning teams have this identity, culture, and environment. Well, I mean, I've never been a part of it, but I agree because I watched a lot of those teams. You know, you go back to 2013. There's another example. These guys are growing beards with each other. You had the horrific Boston Marathon incident that year, right? You rallied around the city of Boston, right? But this team was there for each other. They played hard. You know, there's another one, 2007. That team was so talented, but again, they just liked being around each other, but they were just good players too, man. Let's move on from that part. Well, one more thing he said that stuck out to me. He said the whole needs to be greater than the parts. We all know how great of a part Rafi Devers was of a team. But was he contributing to the whole? Yeah. But was he doing it as best as he could? No. He was asked, how does this move improve the team? This was interesting. Hard to see on paper, but it's not about the game on paper. Team needs to be functional, flexible, and complete. I see what he's saying there, right? Especially in today's day and age where, you know, you're using so many platoon hitters, you're going to your bullpen more, you know, starters aren't really the same as what they used to be. I agree with that, right? I mean, yeah, you got to have flexibility. You also got to be functional at the same time, right? You got to have parts that are working with each other, right? That are in motion with each other, like a bike, right? He also said they have a number of young players who are in the big leagues. Oh, everyone, if you are watching this on Nesson, I do have to wrap it up right there. I apologize for that. If you want to catch the rest of this, go check it out on YouTube on Monster Territory. Nesson viewers, I'll see you next time. Let's finish up here on YouTube. We have a lot to talk about. He said they have a number of young players who are in the big leagues. Very excited about them. Like I said, Roman Anthony's batting third tonight. I don't know what else you need to see there. They have full trust in this guy. That's what it is, right? I mean, if he was batting fifth or sixth tonight, you know, then yeah, you're probably thinking, oh, all right, they're still not, you know, they're not ready to really put him in motion, right? Guy was batting third. Said the young players need more run and a good environment. That stuck out to me as well. All right. Obviously, you know, Roman now, I've talked about this a couple of times. Yes, now that DH is freed up, I've talked about this a million times. That's why I said Rafi moving to first base would have been the best thing because it would have opened up DH for Roman and Willier and whoever else, you know, to get ABs, right? So yeah, right. DH opening up now really helps. This part stuck out to me as well. A good environment. Interesting. Kind of makes me wonder, I don't know, did that have anything to do? Was he throwing a little shade maybe at Rafi right there? Or just maybe he felt like the clubhouse wasn't as strong as it could have been. You have to remember, getting back to that 2013 team. Hey, Craig Breslow, he was a key part of that 2013 postseason team. He came up big in the postseason that year. He knew all about what you needed to do to have a team. Craig Breslow was a part of it. Remember going into that 2013 year, a lot of people were thinking, well, I don't know what this team's going to be. Shane Victorino coming off a bad year, Mike Napoli coming off whatever year, he had a hip injury. Like, what is this team even going to be, right? They had good players, but you still weren't really sold. But they came together as a unit, and they went on an incredible run, especially with just a horrible tragedy that happened, right? They rallied around each other. So again, getting back to that line, he wants the young players to have a good environment. I wonder what he meant by that, whether or not he meant from a player development point of view or maybe a clubhouse energy point of view. He goes on to say, this deal made more sense for us than not making it. If we didn't get the return we were holding out for, we wouldn't have made it. Now, I'll talk about a couple other teams that were reportedly in the mix for Rafi. But I think, obviously, they wanted a team to, of course, if you're trading away a big contract, the huge goal is to have a team take on the contract, right? You don't have to pay any of it. They found a team that paid it. But at the same time, though, they understood how good of a player Rafi was, how good of a hitter he was. So, yeah, I think they really, they said, okay, we'll take a bad contract, but, you're going to have to make up for it a little bit too. And luckily, they found a team like the Giants who have had trouble bringing in star players over the years, right? They haven't been able to land a lot of these guys in free agency. Giancarlo Stanton, they wanted to make a trade for him. He didn't want to waive his no trade clause to go there. So they saw an opportunity here where they're like, okay, all right, we're going to have to take on this contract. But we finally, yes, you bring in Willie Adames, Matt Chapman, Blake Snell, who ended up going to the Dodgers. A big ticket guy like Rafi, who could be your next best hitter since Barry Bonds, by the way. I do like this move for the Giants a lot. I think it's great. But from the Red Sox point of view, this is your star player. You're not going to be letting him go easily. Even if a team takes on the contract, you still have to get something in return. And luckily, they found a Giants team that is desperate to bring in talent. He said this was a real interesting one that a lot of people jumped on. He said he thinks there's a real chance at the end of the season they win more games than they would have. A lot of people joked about this on Twitter. To me, the optimistic Red Sox fan in me, you know what? I'll give you my honest answer to that. Whether or not you agree with that quote or not, whether or not you think it's crazy, you know what? I like the confidence though. Sure, do you have a chance to maybe look pretty stupid in the end? Yeah, those words can come back to bite you, but you know what? I like the confidence. I like it. So, you're just saying it. I think we have a chance to win more games than, what we were. Is that going to come true? I don't know. But you know what? I like the confidence. I'm okay with it. However, I will say this. If their vision of having more roster flexibility, being able to get some other guys into the mix with the ABs, again, are you going to be able to replace Rafi's bat with one bat? No, you are not. But if you could possibly get other guys here into the mix, if you can find maybe, a couple of bats that could maybe make up for the loss, right? I hate to do this, but you bring up what I was thinking earlier of Moneyball. I can't believe I'm making this comparison. I guarantee a lot of you are you're probably clicking out of this right now. I just always think when they lost Jason Giambi, well, how are we going to replace 38 home runs or what was it? 38 home runs and 140 RBI. Well, you gotta, what was the line? You gotta find it in the aggregate or however he said it. All right. You got to find multiple players with an average on base to make up for the loss of Jason Giambi, right? I know that sounds ridiculous, but that's kind of getting to my point. It's not going to take one player, right? You're not going to be able to replace 30 homers, 100 RBIs that you're going to lose with Rafi, but could you maybe get a couple of guys, that could maybe, get you, 20 homers, drive in 60 to 70, whatever it may be. Can you do that? Sure. We'll see, right? I think Roman Anthony has all the upside in the world, and that's another thing as well. Could you maybe, I think the Red Sox are still going to wait to see if he can throw, but I do wonder about Masataka Yoshida. That's right there, a bat that you can put in the lineup, a guy that's not going to strike out all that much. He's going to give you productive at-bats. Could he get back into the mix here? We'll see. It's going to be a group effort to replace Rafi. I had people coming at me today I don't know what this was. I had people today on Twitter saying to me, like, what was it? I can't even, what was it? It was, there was a report today from a National League executive saying that this really gives the Red Sox a lot of options here. You know, maybe they can go after a full-time first baseman like Rhys Hoskins. And I put that out there today, and then someone said in the comments, why would you want Rhys Hoskins? Now, Rhys Hoskins, you know, is he really what he is, you know, or what he was a couple of years ago before he went down with the injury? I mean, no. He got hot a little bit ago, right? His numbers don't look amazing overall, you know, but I said, you know, it's interesting because I saw a lot of people over the last couple of weeks saying, oh, you know, Rhys Hoskins, that could be a great option for first base, right? Right-handed power bat at Fenway Park. You know, I could see his bat playing at Fenway for sure. And then, like, I had people saying to me, people get, like, so ridiculous on Twitter, saying, like, yeah, Rhys Hoskins is not going to be replacing Rafi Devers. Well, duh. Obviously, Rhys Hoskins is not going to replace Rafi Devers. Obviously. Goodness gracious. Like, oh, man, that's something new I just learned. Wow, I didn't know that. Of course he's not going to. But could, you know, if the Red Sox keep hinting, I'll get to this part in a little bit. The Red Sox keep hinting at looking for a long-term option at first base. They keep hinting at it in different ways. You know, sure, Toro and Romy have been great. But from the Red Sox point of view, I wonder what they're thinking about it, right? I don't know. They keep suggesting it. Or it keeps getting out there in reports. So, yeah, I mean, like, if you brought in a guy like Rhys Hoskins, I mean, obviously, no, he's not going to replace Rafi, but could he, you know, someone like him or whoever else be part of the solution? Part of the solution. I don't know. You're going to have to see how things play out. But holy cow, people were getting ridiculous about that. Goodness gracious. It's so funny how people, they just, you know, they get mad at you because they interpret what you're saying incorrectly. Where it's like, how about you just have a conversation and just maybe, you know, it's not my fault. You misinterpreted what I said. I don't know. Whatever. It's been a day. It's been a rough 28 hours here, almost 30 hours here. Moving on, we got a lot more comments to talk about. He also brought up, you know, he said roster flexibility, but, you know, talking about the pitching a lot here today, too. I'll say that if the Red Sox can keep pitching and if they can keep finding, you know, I don't want to say finding, but if they can just keep up this consistency with the starting pitching more often than not, that's really going to help as well. You know, you don't necessarily, you know, yes, obviously you want to have a good offense, but if you're getting these guys stepping up on the pitching side of things, well, hey, run prevention is a thing too, right? You don't necessarily have to replace Rafi with a bat or bats, but you could also replace those wins that you lose in other areas of the team, whether that's with the starting pitching or with the bullpen as well. You know, even defense can help you replace wins. Run prevention, I know that might make me sound like a nerd, but it is what it is. What's the old saying? Pitching and defense wins championships. I'm just saying. He did reflect on himself as well. Anything he would have done differently. He said he reflected on himself, the way, you know, he's communicated, said he needs to own things, needs to reflect on himself, needs to have humility, what he can do better, but said things would have turned out similar anyway. I thought that was an interesting quote. I think, you know, Craig Breslow, we're going to also get to an article here in a little bit from June Lee. He used to be with ESPN. I believe he's with Yahoo Sports now. He's an independent writer now, I believe. He had a whole article today about the Red Sox organization, how there seems to be a lot of dysfunction. But from Craig, you know, yeah, I think you could make that improvement. Again, you know, Rafi, sure, I think he needed to step up for the team. But I think, you know, yeah, you could always improve your communication. And the Red Sox, I put out a long post today of like all these dramatic things that have happened over the years, going back to when John Henry and Tom Werner bought the team. It just seems like it's been just such a soap opera over the years with all of these just ridiculous moments over the years, including Theo Epstein in a gorilla suit, one of my favorite stories of all time. But yeah, absolutely. There seems to be a lack of communication. There seems to be just, I don't know what it is. The organization over the last few years, they just don't seem to have a clue of how to operate. They don't seem to have a clue of, just what is going on here, right? And I do think, honestly, success, failure always trickles down from the top. I think that needs to start with ownership. And you can kind of just see over the years, right? The Red Sox, the Fenway Sports Group, they've gotten more invested with Liverpool, other ventures as well. And when John Henry was more invested with the team, that's when things were good. But you're seeing now an absence of that over the last few years. Funny enough, when you see John Henry come back into the picture a little bit, all of a sudden, things, not for the whole year, but you've seen things be better, right? You go back to the offseason, right? Crochet, Bregman, obviously the winning streak here recently. And it's just funny because, John Henry going back, 22, 23, 24, felt like he didn't really ever see the guy. He didn't talk to anyone. And now that he's kind of poked his head back in a little bit, you are seeing better things. So I think that does trickle down from the ownership. It always starts there. It always starts at the top. And it's just funny, the timing of where, Liverpool, other things coming into play, working on renovations or ideas for renovations outside of Fenway Park. You can just see the effect on the Red Sox. Just seems like, there's a lot of times where this organization just seems to have no clue what they're doing. I don't know. He said he needs to own things that he can do better. He thinks about it all the time, how to interact with guys, including Rafi and other players, opportunities to communicate differently. Craig Breslow, when I watch him, he's always come off as just, he's a smart guy, right? He's a very analytical guy. It's just his personality, He doesn't seem like a guy that, at least on, from the media spotlight and whatnot, there just seems to be a bit of stiffness with him. There seems to be a bit of, closed offness a little bit. He says a lot of words where he's not really giving you a whole lot of beef, gives you word salads a lot. But, I'm glad at least that he's looking on himself and he's saying, you know what, I need to improve too. This came up with Rafi Devers as well, about shopping Rafi Devers with other teams. Buster Olney put out something today, and I think the guys over at Just Baseball, they retweeted it, but it came from Buster Olney, saying that the Red Sox didn't shop around Rafi Devers. I'm going to let you all know here, don't listen to Buster Olney anymore. Just don't. He was a dude back in, the day, mid 2000s, 2010s. That, like he had stuff, but since then, this guy's missed a lot over recent years. I'm not sure what Buster Olney was talking about here, but that report ended up being false. Chris Cotillo, Sean McAdam, who have a pulse within the Red Sox community, right? They got the scoops. They reported today that the Padres, the Blue Jays, and the Braves were also involved for Rafi Devers. So Greg Breslow, he also commented on this as well. He said he saw that story and he just said, okay, well, whatever that means. I don't know what that means, right? Because obviously there were other teams involved. To me, even when I saw that report from Buster Olney, even before Chris Cotillo, Sean McAdam, they put out their own report, that just sounded ridiculous to me because you just look at how Craig Breslow operates. The man is so analytical. He's a number crunching machine that went to Yale. Was it Yale? I'm going blank on that. Do you really think he's only going to try and call one team? This dude was probably going through trade proposals from the Padres, Blue Jays, Braves, Giants, obviously. I guarantee you this guy was studying all of it. And do you really think he's going to leave himself just to one team? Do you remember the reports from this past offseason from other executives saying how aggressive he was how dialed in he was, how persistent he was. Do you really think this guy is only going to limit himself to one team? Baloney. Buster Olney, stop it. Stop it. Like Joey Swole says, you got to do better. My goodness. Anyway. However, Jeff Ponce of Baseball America, he said that he had heard of another trade offer that John Henry vetoed because they would have had to take back a big contract. That's interesting. I'm very curious to see if that ever gets out. It made me wonder, like, okay, well, we heard the teams, Padres, Blue Jays, Braves. I thought about the Padres. Could Yu Darvish have been a guy? I believe he has another year of control after this year. Maybe a couple more. I can't remember. I thought about the Blue Jays. Could, Jose Barrios have been a guy? I think about the Braves, but they don't really have any bad contracts. So I just wonder, it kind of made me think if there was a bad, if they had to take back a contract, it probably wasn't a good contract. Someone like Jordan Hicks, though, where, he was on a 3-year deal. I believe next year is the last year of the deal. That was a bit more digestible, right? And that's a guy that can be a weapon at the back end of your bullpen. We'll talk. Actually, this is the next part. Let's get to the comments on the return players. Kyle Harrison, he sees him as a front half of the rotation guy. I do wonder. I'm going to hold out. It's, how do I say this? I really like Kyle Harrison a lot. It was a guy that was a top 25 prospect on MLB Pipeline just a couple of years ago. Last year, I believe he was number 23 in last year's top 100. There's a lot of upside with him. Good stuff from the left side. Good velo. He was highly touted coming out of high school. All right, good arm. There's a lot of upside with him. However, I do wonder if there was another deal to be made at some point, which I do think there will be. I'll get to that in a little bit. I do think there will be another deal, maybe even a couple. I wonder if he could be used in another trade. Maybe not. Probably not, but he has value, and I could see teams seeing that value. So I wonder if the Red Sox were to pull off a big trade, would you have to include someone like him? I'm not so sure. However, if the Red Sox end up keeping him, I think there's a lot of potential there, especially with the pitching development that the Red Sox have instilled within the organization. Jordan Hicks, this was an interesting comment. He sees Jordan Hicks as a dominant late inning reliever. Now, remember Jordan Hicks, he went to the Giants. They said, hey, we want you to start for us, right? He's been kind of going back and forth as a starter, as a reliever. I said this last night as well in the reaction shows after the trade. And that's what I think. I mean, the Red Sox, they got so many starting pitchers at this point. But I have said, and I know you've all heard me say this, I've said multiple times, I feel like the Red Sox need another high leverage guy at the back end of the bullpen. Sure, the bullpen has been tremendous, but I think Hicks could be another option at the back end of the bullpen, or could he be a multi-inning weapon? I could see Jordan Hicks having a big role in this bullpen. James Tibbs. I was very excited when I saw James Tibbs come across the screen. He, realistically, if the Red Sox didn't have Brady Montgomery fall to them in the draft last year, I think James Tibbs would have been the number 12 pick. He was rumored in a group of players to go to the Red Sox, but the fact that the Red Sox, they took Brady Montgomery, if he was off the board, well, the next best lefty bat on the board was Tibbs. They could have gone a couple of different routes, maybe like Trey Savage, right? He ended up going to the Blue Jays. He was in the mix a little bit. There were, a couple of high school players there. But Tibbs was being heavily mentioned with the Red Sox, and I think it's funny that they ended up getting him back. He described Tibbs having an athletic profile, makes great swing decisions, a very good on-base guy. That's why he was given a very good hit tool coming out of college. and a lot of power upside. You saw the power really jump up in his final year at Florida State. And he also said here he thinks he can excel in their player development infrastructure. The Red Sox have always had a lot of success developing position players. I could see someone like James Tibbs having a better development in the Red Sox organization. Got off to a bit of a slow start in his pro career with the Giants. Didn't put up great numbers last year. Is starting to come around a little bit. But the Red Sox, I mean, you've seen what they've been able to do. Roman Anthony, Christian Campbell, Marcelo Meyer just in recent years. You could look more at Christian Campbell, who was a later pick, but then you go back further. Mookie Betts was a late round pick, right? All these guys, right? International signings like Rafi, Xander, they've had a lot of success. James Tibbs, absolutely, I think has a shot. But then again, I do wonder, the Red Sox, they got a lot of left-handed bats. Could that be a guy that could maybe be used in another deal? I'll say this, the Red Sox, if they can kind of tinker with a couple of things here over the next week or so, maybe get him on track a little bit more, kind of build upon the numbers that he already had, 12 home runs so far this year, maybe other teams can see something there. And maybe that could make him a bit more attractive, when it comes to being a possible trade chip. We'll see. Then he also talked about Jose Bayo. Didn't have much to say about him. He's an exciting young arm. Not a lot of velocity with him right now, but he has good secondary stuff. So, and the Red Sox, they've shown in the last year, they've gotten plenty of bumps with velocity. Peyton Tolley, that's another guy. They've really built that with him. Brandon Clark as well. Going blank on another name. Valera, sorry. I don't know why I was going blank on that. But they've really built Velo here over the last year, so maybe they could do something with him. Now, this is kind of where I tie into what I was just saying, where these guys could maybe be trade chips. He said they have more resources now going into the trade deadline. I found that very interesting. Very interesting that he said that. He also said there's no way that this says the Rafi trade, that it's them waving the white flag. I said that too, right? A lot of people were thinking, oh, they're selling. What are the Red Sox doing? They're sellers? I didn't see that. I looked at it as, there was obviously a dysfunction, a disconnect with a player front office, happened to be your star player, and they felt like it was best for the organization to move on. I didn't see that as waving the white flag. You look at Manny Ramirez. No, I'm not comparing Manny and Rafi. That was completely different. Manny was shoving down security guards, for crying out loud. Obviously, Rafi wasn't doing that. More just talking about the disconnect, comparing that. But they brought in Jason Bay. Everyone knew Manny Ramirez was better than Jason Bay, but they brought in Bay, and he ended up being very productive, right? So I think you can absolutely be a competitive team, even without Rafi. I don't look at that as waving the white flag at all, because you have a lot of guys that could step up offensively, get some good pitching, maybe make a couple of moves by the deadline, and I think you still could be okay. We'll see. But he said that, again, they have more resources going into the deadline. Well, now they have more prospects to work with, more young talent. They now have more money to work with. Rafi's obviously off the books now. The Giants took the whole contract. Well, all of a sudden, they got a lot of money they can play with, right? There's a lot of money that can be allocated here. He did say starting pitching could be an opportunity to continue to upgrade. I'm telling you right now, I'm looking at Wilyer Abreu. Especially if they bring back Yoshida. I hope they do. I hope that man finds his way back into the lineup. I think Red Sox fans, that would actually make them very happy. I really do. Because they know Masataka Yoshida, he's been given a raw deal here over the last couple of years. Unfortunately, he has gotten hurt too, but I think that would make Red Sox fans happy if he was brought back. I think that would be kind of a feel-good thing. But he said starting pitching could be upgraded. I'll tell you right now, I do think Wilyer could absolutely be used in a deal. I really do. And I think you could use Wilyer, especially now that you have more money to play with. Maybe you could go after, say, a Mitch Keller on the Pirates, who is on a pretty team-friendly deal. He's making around what is it, like 17, 18 million a year? That's a guy that could be a really solid mid-rotation guy for you. If Sandy Alcantara keeps improving, could he be an option? Now, obviously, Giolito, Bueller, they've had elbow issues here over recent years. Do you want to bring in another guy with elbow issues? Probably not the best idea. Could you go after Freddie Peralta with the Brewers, who has a club option for next year? What is Freddie Peralta's club option for next year? What is it? How much is that for? Oh, it's $8 million. That's nothing. Oh, that's nothing. Well, whatever. He's, still $8 million. They could use that maybe if the Brewers were willing to deal him. Maybe they sell high on him now, like they did with Hader a few years ago. The point is they could add money if they want to here. They could bring in another salary here if they wanted to. I am looking at someone like Mitch Keller. The Pirates need bats. Maybe, right? And he also did mention that they needed to look for a long-term solution at first base because Casas has a lengthy rehab from here on out. He says it's going to be a long process. Again, that kind of makes me wonder, I think they want to bring someone in almost yes, as a guy that could maybe take over every day for the rest of the year, but also as insurance if Casas has complications coming back, right? So that's why I wonder if someone like Hoskins could be available. And obviously he's on a salary, right? He's making a lot of money. So someone like him or a rental. Ryan O'Hearn in division trade. Josh Naylor, right? One of those guys, I wonder if they could go after one of these guys. Before I get to Sam Kennedy, we do have one more word from our sponsor, and I promise that'll be it for the night. But we'll be right back.
By now you know that HelloFresh is America's #1 meal kit and that you can choose from 60 recipes every week. But what you might not know is that AJ wants me to describe some of the recent meals that are on the menu. So here we go. Sun-dried tomato grilled cheese sandos. That was easy. Panko-crusted chimichurri barramundi.
Yes.
Let's go.
Nailed it.
That
sounds delicious too, by the way.
It does.
And listen, as someone that uses HelloFresh a lot, they come in these little bags with all the ingredients in a bag. You take it out of the bag. It gives you instructions, the recipes in there. You got to do a little cooking so you feel like you did some stuff. Highest quality ingredients, just delicious for meals.
That's right. Make your summer enjoyable and delicious by signing up for HelloFresh at HelloFresh.com/FT10FM and then get 10 free meals with a free item for life. That's HelloFresh.com/FT10FM for 10 free meals and a free item in every box, one per box with active subscription. Free meals are applied as a discount on the first box. New subscribers only, varies by plan.
All righty, let's get to the Sam Kennedy comments. It is late. It is 1:20 in the morning. Oh, I am so tired. Let's get through these pretty quickly. I'm again, thank you all for coming out here tonight. I do appreciate it. I see a lot of you in the chat. Moose, you're saying here Bryce Harper would be great. Moose, I love you, my friend. I love you dearly. But the Phillies are not trading Bryce Harper. They're not going to do what the Red Sox did with Rafi Devers. I promise you that. Yes, I agree. Bryce Harper would be amazing, but that's not happening. DeGoat, when should we expect Jordan Hicks and Kyle Harrison to be on the roster? Jordan Hicks is on the IL right now with a foot issue, so I guess you could see him in the next couple of weeks or so. Kyle Harrison, I don't think there's really a rush to bring him up. I think second half at some point. I mean, they already have a lot of starting pitching. Carter Crawford's going to be making his way back soon. So Kyle Harrison, I don't think you really maybe even need to see him until, later on, if you need to skip a start or whatever it may be. And yeah, maybe you can get a call up there. And then don't forget, they got Richard Fitz, they got a lot of guys. So I don't know, man. Corbin, do you think they go after Pete in the offseason? I don't know. I think the Red Sox popped up at one point. I think they connected with Pete Alonso in the offseason at one point. I don't know. I mean, I agree. I mean, I see you in the chat. Pete would be great at Fenway, maybe rake 50 homers. I mean, holy cow. Guy would be a monster at Fenway Park. I don't know, maybe. We'll see. We'll see. It kind of makes you wish that the Mets weren't very good. Then they could make a trade for Pete Alonso. That'd be amazing. Let's get to Sam Kennedy. I'm going to go through these ones pretty quick. He didn't really have a lot to say. He did use one word a lot. The word alignment. I felt like he said that like a million times. He definitely tried to push that point home. He said he's forever grateful for Rafi's contributions. The decision was not taken lightly. He wished Rafi well. Said blame is to go all around. They couldn't find alignment with Rafi, though. Said they reached an inflection point. They acted boldly and decisively. He thinks the deal benefits them in the short term and the long term. And again, I could see their thinking behind that. Not trying to sound like a Red Sox homer, but I'm looking at it from their perspective where, again, it's opening up ABs, right, for this next wave of talented young players, right? It does open that up. And then, I mean, it opens up a ton of possibilities for the future. I mean, after this year, I mean, you have a completely clean slate, you know? He said in the end, it was clear they couldn't find alignment with Rafi. It's the truth. Again, I think they tried, man. This is a Red Sox team where they've put up with a lot of stuff in the past. You know, you go back to Manny, you go back to Pablo Sandoval, you go back to all that, Bobby Valentine, right? They have put up with a lot of stuff over the years. So I guarantee they really wanted to make this work with Rafi. However, you think back to the last few years here, Rafi doesn't really like talking to the media all that much. He doesn't really, Chris Cotillo, he talked about this on Foul Territory today, but, I've known this too, where he hasn't really wanted to go out there and do any kind of, sponsor things or commercial things or photo ops for the Red Sox or any kind of advertisement opportunities. But you expect that. You expect that from your guy, right? Look at Bryce Harper with the Phillies, Aaron Judge with the Yankees. So when you're the highest paid player, like, yeah, I appreciate that you want to go out there and just play some baseball. But when you're getting paid that much money, you are naturally going to have a higher expectation. But of course, really, I think the big thing was that he didn't want to be flexible for the team. Said they worked at it for the last several months. I do believe that. Cora, Craig, John Henry. John Henry flew to Kansas City. Obviously, that didn't do anything. He said that he was missing the best interests of the ball club. And he said that's a non-starter for them. Needs to be a two-way street. Again, yeah, I mean, the Red Sox, they need to improve their communication. But Rafi, in the end, it's not that he didn't want to step up. Here's the thing, and this is what I see a lot of people say. I see a lot of people say this. Rafi was being jerked around by the organization, right? He's, wasn't being communicated with properly. But you know what? Sure, that's true, right? You're on the right track with that. But you're not stepping up for your teammates. You have 25 other guys in there, right? Where these guys want to win. They're competitive. They're there to win baseball games. And when you move to first base, that could help you add another bat into the lineup. So, sure, whatever. Say what you want about Red Sox ownership and the front office. Fine. But you're letting your teammates down. That's what I don't, I see so many people. I guarantee someone is going to come into the comments after this and they're going to say, oh, Robbie's just a Red Sox homer. He's ridiculous. Blah, 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 blah. I'm tired. I got to go to bed. He did bring up Kansas City. He did bring up that meeting. Said they had an honest conversation, but they couldn't find a shared vision. He walked away from it feeling Rafi was more dug in than ever. He did talk about as well, he went on the Nesson pregame last week, and he was asked, like, hey, do you think Rafi's going to pick up a glove? And he did say, like, yeah, if the team is expecting, him to play some defense, then he thinks he will. He did say he was being overly optimistic with that, and that was his fault. Let's get to some of the former players here. Former players. This is where it really kind of started grinding my gears a little bit. I couldn't believe this one. David Ortiz said he tried contacting Rafi a ton of times, but he never got back to him. What? David Ortiz? Arguably the greatest hitter ever for the Red Sox, up there with legends like Ted Williams. You're not going to return a call to David Ortiz or a text? Are you out of your mind, Rafi? What? That's bonkers, man. And I'm going to be honest with you. That says a lot to me. That says a lot that, whatever. You could have your feelings about the organization, the front office, but David Ortiz? That's crazy. I don't know about that one. David Ortiz said there's players that think they're bigger than the game. He asks a question. What company pays you to do whatever you want? Guarantees someone's going to find a loophole in that too. Guarantees someone's going to bring up a contradiction in that too. Nope. He's right. Companies aren't paying you $300 million frickin' dollars to do whatever you want. Yeah. You're a face of the Red Sox. The Red Sox, the team that's on the front of your jersey. He said it's a business, it's not your house. I don't know. Sonny, I see you in the chat. It doesn't help with the language barrier. Well, I'm seeing Ronald Acuna Jr. here in the last couple of days speaking English without his translator. He's always had his translator. Now Ronald Acuna Jr., he's speaking English with the media. I don't know. That's just me. Papelbon tweeted out today that it's all about the team. Kevin Millar has said in recent weeks it's all about the team. Manny Ramirez, he was also on that podcast today with David Ortiz. Said it's all about the team. They all come from that 2014. And it's even funnier that it's coming from Manny. From Manny. I mean, the guy it was the Manny being Manny show, right? So I did find that one a little surprising, but it is funny that it comes from even Manny saying it. At one point, Manny, I think, was a good teammate, right? Players probably wanted to friggin' just go to town on this guy. I think Trot Nixon even said something a couple of times. Kevin Millar had to hold him back, I think. I don't know. Other players on the Red Sox talked about this. Jarren Duran talked about this, said he was shocked when he saw Rafi getting off the plane. But he did say that it's one of 26. Feels they have a good team, and that's the way they're looking at the front office. Garrett Crochet, I thought this one spoke volumes. Said it was a tough blow, shocking, but it's time to move on. Focused on moving forward as a group. Thought that was interesting. As a group. Could that have been a little shade? Front office doesn't owe the players he said the front office does not owe the players an explanation. I saw a lot of people making just ridiculous comments on that too. Saying, oh yeah, well, you're just selling out for the ownership. And those people are the same ones, they would never say anything about their boss at work. So it's so funny. I think this says to me that I think a lot of the players saw this whole thing as a distraction. Whether or not, they probably liked Rafi. I don't think there was anything wrong from a personal point of view. But I think they, even if they liked Rafi, they probably still saw it as a distraction. It was something in the air. In the end, it's a business. You have to act professional. They're signing your paychecks. Simple as that. June Lee. Last story of the night. Very long show here tonight, ladies and gentlemen. I promise you, it is not always like this. We usually just talk about the game, and that's it. but there's a lot to dive into here. Last thing, though, I promise. I want to go to sleep. June Lee. He used to be with ESPN, now with Yahoo Sports, I believed. He detailed dysfunction within the organization. He did bring up a story where there was a Zoom call with the Red Sox scouting director, Craig Mosh. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. He said that Craig Mosh thought the call had ended. But he had a hot mic still on. And then he said out loud, thanks, Brez, you effing stiff. He was proceeded to be fired. But that kind of gets into, Gregor, I agree. It's kind of how he is. He has a very stiff mentality. And other executives around baseball, they view him as robotic, that he lacks feel. He does give me that. I think Greg Breslow is a good person. I mean, does he communicate his best with the people around him? Well, I don't know. I don't work with him on a daily basis, but from what other people are saying, he does. It seems like he just tries to avoid the media at all costs. Chaim Bloom was very open to talking to the media. But yeah, Craig, I think that's a fair assessment. I think he is stiff. I think he is, he's definitely introverted. You can see that. I think that is true. I think that is true. But I think it really is because he just seems like an introverted person. Also from that article, this was another one about Rafi. This was what? Like not returning David Ortiz's texts or phone calls. And then this one, Rafi didn't like that Christian Campbell volunteered to play first base. He interpreted it as a slight to his character. Well, see you later, Rafi. See you later. Sorry. But when another guy is trying to help out the team, you're going to get mad because someone wants to help out the team. A rookie, you take that as a slight to your character. I don't know. That sounds a little maybe selfish, a little self-centered, if you ask me. You got mad because someone else wanted to try and help the team? A young guy trying to put his stamp on the team who just got a life-changing contract from the Red Sox? I think that's the big difference right there. Christian Campbell just got a life-altering, big-time contract, and he was willing to step up for the team. Rafi's getting paid, 3 times as much as Christian Campbell, but he didn't want to? I think that says a lot right there. And the fact that Rafi got mad at that. Listen, I know Rafi's a good player, but sorry, man. I don't think that belongs in a clubhouse. If that's true, Jill, this is not Rafi bashing. We're just talking facts. We're talking reports. At the end of the day, I don't think you should be getting mad at a teammate that just wants to help the team. If you disagree, I don't think that's Rafi bashing. I don't think that's at all. I think that's just calling it like it is. You can't get mad at someone that just wants to help out. That's just me. I don't know. It is what it is. But yeah, Coffin Gang, it's a hit piece. I agree. And I said this yesterday. Where, yeah, you're going to have a lot of stuff come out. You are. And you're going to keep seeing more, right? You're going to keep seeing more. But listen, I don't know, man. That's very specific. And I don't know, man. I don't think you're just pulling that out of nowhere. That's just me. There was a lot to dive into here tonight. I am extremely tired. Yeah, Jill, you're right. I don't know what's true or not. But again, when I look at like specific little details from something like that, just seems a little tough to maybe just make that up. I don't know. If it's not true, then, well, shame on whoever gave that report. I'll say that. Again, you never know, right? I will say if it is true, though, that's not good, right? You can't do that. If it is, that's just not acceptable. However, there's always a chance it's not fully accurate. I will say that. Everybody, I'm out of here. I'm so tired. I'm probably sounding like I'm extra grumpy here, but it is way past my bedtime. It is 1:40 in the morning. I am falling off a cliff right now. Everybody, we'll be back here tomorrow night, and we're just going to have a nice post game tomorrow. Nothing crazy, not all these comments, not all these different things to talk about here with Rafi. Let's just start focusing on the Red Sox here. We're going to have more Rafi stuff coming out. We're going to have more of this. You're going to have more of these hit piece kind of things. It's just how it works with the Red Sox. It's just always been that way. I'm just ready to move on. I'm ready to turn the page. But the game here tonight, a lot of positives from it. Had a good feeling about it. Let's end this on a positive note. Something feels like it's in the air with this Red Sox team. Feels like you got a fresh start, a clean slate. You got off to a good start here in the new era. 6 straight wins, 8 out of 10 in your last, or you've won 8 out of your last 10 games. 2 games above 500. And I think the Red Sox, I haven't even mentioned this at all, I think they're right there for a playoff spot. I think they have a wild card spot right now. So that's good. All right, everybody. I'm tired. Thank you for joining me here tonight. I appreciate it. Go enjoy the rest of your night. If you can, hit that like button on the way out. Subscribe if you're new. And I'll talk to you next time.